A story is a truth about the human condition. It is a truth about how to live a life. Storytelling is the proof of this truth. It is about making the audience experience this kind of life.
Just as logic lays out the principles which make an argument valid, so there are principles to storytelling which make the audience understand and experience the life a character goes through.
If the audience can identify with the character and their life, it means that life is real. If they can't, then either there is no truth to the story you are telling, or you did not tell it convincingly enough. Storytelling principles translate a truth about human life into an understandable, plausible, and convincing experience.
The principles of storytelling don't prescribe to you how to tell a story, just as logic doesn't prescribe to you how to make an argument. But there are rules to what makes an argument valid and therefore convincing, just as there are principles that make a story plausible, convincing, and also gripping and touching.
Storytelling principles make a story clear and understandable to both the author and the audience. They make divine inspiration concrete, particular, and clear to the human mind.
The idea you have revealed itself only to you. It gave you direct access and showed itself as complete and perfect. That's why it's so clear in your mind.
But if you want to write it down and share it with everyone else, then you have to mediate this clarity through words. You have to follow certain principles to make the story understandable, just as you have to follow logic to make a philosophical argument understandable. There are two different faculties of the human mind at play here: the inspiration and the understanding. Inspiration is the faculty of the human mind where we receive ideas. It is connected to the universal Platonic realm. It inspires, it does not explain. We don't share it with other people, but have a unique relationship with it. The understanding, on the other hand, is the faculty of the human mind we do share with each other. It grapples with the physical reality and particular elements of the world and makes sense of them. Because we all share this physical reality, we all share the same faculty which makes sense of everything around us.
This is the core issue. A story reveals itself to you as inspiration. However, inspiration cannot be shared. It has to be mediated. You experience ideas more emotionally than intellectually. But if you want to share your story with others, you cannot do it directly through inspiration. You have to make it understandable.
To properly share stories with others, we have to mediate inspiration through words and communicate the ideas through the faculty of understanding. Inspiration and understanding are not aligned, and just because you are inspired does not mean you understand your story. If you really understood what your story is about, you would be able to write it in one sitting. Just as you should be able to teach someone what you really know, so you should be able to tell your story without any problems if you truly understood it.
But you don't, and that's perfectly normal. Not only is it normal, it is necessary. That's why storytelling and all creation is about the process, not about the outcome.
Story is a process of inspiration, storytelling is a process of understanding. Therefore, storytelling is the journey of truth from inspiration into understanding. There are 7 key principles of story and storytelling which do just that, which guide an idea from the eternal realm of ideas, where the idea exists, and the corporeal realm, where the idea instantiates itself.
These principles don't impose anything on you. They are not a formula to tell a great story. They simply state what makes a story understandable to both you and the audience. If you follow these principles, you will tell your story in a clear and concise way. Nothing more, nothing less.
Story is eternal, storytelling is causal. The story unfolds all at once. It is not temporal, nor is it governed by causality. It is as it is, eternal and unchanged. You get immediate access to your story, and that's why it's so clear in your mind. Storytelling, however, is temporal and spatial. It takes place in our physical world, which is subject to time and space. Most importantly, it is subject to causality. Storytelling is an art because it translates divine inspiration, which is irrational and primal, into understanding, something rational and objective.
Everything in this world follows the law of causality. Therefore, the human mind only understands causes and effects. And as the purpose of storytelling is to make the story understandable to other people, it needs to follow the law of causality.
Story is archetypal, storytelling is particular. Stories deal with archetypes of human experience. These are the patterns of the human condition. Every single human life moves in harmony with these archetypes because there is a ground to being human. a foundation which defines human life as human.
A story does not depend on the time and space in which it takes place. Because it is archetypal, it is about those experiences that remain even when the outer world changes.
Storytelling then translates these archetypal patterns of human experience into particular experiences. Only through individual lives can we understand the deeper patterns of human existence. Story is universal, storytelling is structured. The universal nature of stories means all human beings can understand stories. We can understand them because, in a way, our own life is a particular instantiation of a story. In other words, an idea of how life should be lived. However, the process of translating stories into physical reality need to be structured, because structure is how unity and completeness arises in the physical world. Everything in the physical world is connected to everything else. Structure is the connective tissue which puts all the relevant elements of a story into an appropriate relation and connection. Structure is the best representation of the universal dimension of stories.
Just as a philosophical argument follows the structure of induction or deduction, or simply of a syllogism, so too your story needs to follow a structure.
Story is about truth, storytelling about belief. Stories are truths about the human condition. But where do we find these truths? They are not found in philosophical arguments. They are also not found in scientific proofs. They are found in beliefs.
A belief is always necessarily held as true. Believing is like a mechanism which transforms every input into a truth. Every fact which enters this black box, be it true or false, is then taken to be true no matter its objective truth value.
This connection of believing to truth is why beliefs lie at the heart of storytelling. Beliefs connect thoughts and actions as well as emotions and actions. Beliefs determine how we act and what we choose because they determine what we hold as true. That's why what we truly follow through a story is a belief. It's the beliefs which determine a character's life. Story is about the author, storytelling is about the characters.
Story is necessarily about the author. It is about you. The story revealed itself to you because it is about you. It comes from the depths of your being.
You gained access to the story idea due to your mode of being, due to how you live your life. Hence, the story is connected to your life and the being you are now. It reveals something about you. Storytelling, on the other hand, is about the characters. You within a different cloth. A character can be of a different gender, different race, class, or status than you, but they still contain a part of you, a dimension of your beliefs. If a story is about the truth of human experience, then that human experience needs to be lived. A character is that convoy of human experience. The core of story is revelation, the core of storytelling is choice. Any change that happens within a human being is instantaneous. It is like flipping a switch. All information within the physical universe follows a binary code. Yes or no, on or off. So does human understanding. It is either turned on or off. You either understand something or you don't. There is no middle ground.
All change is therefore like a revelation. It may take years of suffering before a person is willing to change, but the change itself is instantaneous.
Storytelling then translates human change into choices. Choice is inevitable in human life, as even an avoidance of choice is itself a choice. Therefore, choice needs to be used to explain a human life and the truth about the human condition. Choice is the clearest representation and visualization of change and transformation, and that's why it is a core principle of how to tell a story. Only actions and choices show a true shift in perception. Story manipulates the characters, storytelling manipulates the audience. A story represents a complete life. It has in view both the beginning and the end. Therefore, it already determined a character's life because it views it in its entirety, not just how it unfolds. Storytelling, on the other hand, is about the audience. It has to show how a life unfolds because the goal is to expand the audience's view of human existence. Your goal is to manipulate the audience. This simply means that you open up their imagination through various writing techniques and make them identify with the characters. If they empathize with them, you can make them feel and experience something they never did before. You can make them go through the same journey and transformation the character goes through.
People don't want to change in the real world, so why would they identify with a character, suffer with them, learn a difficult lesson, and experience the same change as them? If you manipulate them correctly, that is, if you apply the various tools and techniques of master storytellers, then you will make them do just that without them even knowing it. The 7 key principles outlined above establish the way storytelling channels a story idea from inspiration into understanding. They also allow us to draw lessons on how to properly make our story understandable and share it with others.
As I already pointed out, everything in the universe follows the law of causality. This law then governs our understanding and sense making as well. Therefore, what we can share between ourselves has to follow a causal structure. If you want other people to understand your story, and for you to understand it fully yourself, you need to make it causally coherent. Each event in the story has to follow a cause and have an effect on the next event. This happened, therefore this happens, but then this leads to something else.
If the audience understands why something happened, then they will also follow what happens next. However the story unfolds and whatever you put in the character's way, the audience will follow it and infuse it with meaning because the why gives it meaning.
Without a clear causal connection between the events in your story and your character's motivation, the audience will get confused and be unable to identify with your protagonist. The universal is found in the particular, as the Platonist said. The more details you add, the more your story comes to life, and the more of the universal truth is revealed.
A story cannot be broad and generic because the concepts to tell such a story lack anything concrete our understanding and imagination can attach to. You can philosophize about the general elements of the human condition, but for a story, you need to apply these general elements to a particular life.
Even though a story's theme is broad and universal, the best way to understand it is by being as particular and detailed as possible, not broad and vague. How much more magnificent are the pyramids of Giza than the mathematical object of a pyramid on paper? Story structure is the emergent property of every story.
Everything in this world is connected and in relation to each other. So too, everything in your story needs to be connected and related. That's why you need a story structure.
As I explained above, beliefs create the life of a character because they are held as true. If beliefs create and structure the life a character lives, and stories are about human lives, then beliefs also create the structure of stories. Forget inciting incidents, midpoints, and dark nights of the soul. Those are elements of storytelling structure, not of story structure. True story structure is found in the beliefs. In the core belief the character holds in the beginning, the opposing belief which challenges them, and the final belief they accept.
A structure does not limit your creativity, but it allows it to be channeled. It is a channel through which you turn the chaos of creation into something understandable to everybody. Just as the mathematical structure of a pyramid is unchangeable and unavoidable, if correctly applied, it can make wonders.
The most important part of your character is their belief. The belief is what determines their actions, their words, and their emotions. It determines their want and need.
The core aspect of a belief is that it determines the actions of a character and their view of life as a whole.
The core belief of a character is the most crucial part of your story. Once you find it, you will understand your character, you will understand the structure of your story, and you will show the truth about the human condition your story is about. The characters are the backbone of your story. Everything rests on them. Philosophy uses syllogisms. Mathematics uses proof. Storytelling uses characters. They are the element through which you prove the truth about human life you have found. The more you bring your characters to life, the more truth will emerge from that life. This is also why characters come before plot. The truth of a human life is independent of the world it takes place in, but it is dependent on the characters which inhabit. That's why we can have love stories in any period of human history, why we can have stories about power and success set in any part of the world, and why non-human animals or objects can still carry the deep truths about the nature of the human condition. If beliefs determine our inner life, then choices build the outer appearance of our life. The external life is built by choices.
Choice is the most visual and dramatic element which shows a character's belief. Thinking about something is neither dramatic nor interesting, nor is it true. Being sad or happy or angry is more dramatic and more interesting, but it is also not true.
Thoughts and emotions which don't lead to action are not true. Only if thinking leads to action is it true. Only action confirms who a character truly is. The same is true for emotions. If anger leads to a rageful action, then it is true. Otherwise, it is just a passing emotion, a whim of the situation, and not a core part of the character. The true subject of drama are choices and actions. Our purpose as storytellers is to show a life being lived, not a character's psychology or social background, which are the subjects of psychology and sociology, respectively. Ultimately, you are making a story so that other people can experience it.
Why would you write a story if not for other people? If you're only doing it for yourself, then you would just keep fantasizing about it. That's so much more fun than the painful attempts at writing and storytelling. You have to write because you have to share your story with others. You have to share the truth you have found.
The most powerful method to tell your story is to hijack the audience's imagination. This is why characters are the greatest tools of the storyteller. Through the characters, the audience gains a new identity, goes through the same suffering the character does, and in the end, they change with them. Herein lies the transformative power of stories.
The human imagination does not distinguish between the identity of the person who uses the imagination and the thing it imagines. Therefore, it is able to cause a real transformation in the audience. If you can push the right buttons of the imagination, you will make the audience forget they're watching a story and they will become the character.
This is the part where real craft comes to light. This is also what most advice on the internet tackles. But you only truly learn how to do this by writing. These are the 7 lessons we extracted from the storytelling principles. They are meant to help you understand and write your story more easily. If you can't find the right words to convey your inspiration, I hope they will put you back on the right track.
As a storyteller, you have an incredibly important duty. You have to prove the truths and depths of the human experience. You are not just entertaining people, you are transforming their lives.